Morant with a running start. Elevates. Oh, my goodness. Tie game in overtime. Gasol will turn. His heat is gone. Memphis on top. 7-10 remaining. Conley now with three. Count it. A 15-point lead for Memphis. And Blake Griffin gets into it on the floor with Randolph. Hard to tell if there are any punches being thrown under there, but Griffin took acceptance. Adams going long. Morant. He hit it. John Morant. Insanity.
You gotta be kidding me.
Welcome to Grits and Grinds, a Memphis Grizzlies podcast. My name is Keith Parrish. The Grizzlies signed Omax Prosper to their final two-way spot. The former first-round pick comes over to bolster the Grizzlies' front court. They took advantage, the Grizzlies did, of their open two-way spot and now add Omax to the squad. On today's episode, I'm going to talk, of course, about Omax Prosper. I'm also going to talk about some other minor Grizzlies roster moves. Before we get there, just a reminder, if you want to support the creation of my show, you can do that at patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. If you want to join the Grizzlies listener Slack channel, that's available for $5 a month at patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. If you want to play fantasy basketball with me and other listeners, you got to be a Patreon supporter. Also, shout out to all the new people who signed up playing fantasy football in our listener draft. You missed that if you're not already signed up, but if you want to play fantasy basketball this year, patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. All right, the Grizzlies had an open two-way spot, and I commend them on leaving that spot open so they could take advantage of something like this, where the Dallas Mavericks decided to get rid of a former first-round pick. He was the 24th pick a couple of seasons ago. There was no clear path for Omax to play in Dallas with Cooper Flagg and, of course, P.J. Washington and Najee Marshall and Anthony Davis and all their centers. Not a clear way for him to get on the court, and they wanted to keep Brandon Williams, who had a nice end of the season last year. They wanted to re-sign Dante Exum, needed a roster spot. They decided they probably weren't going to pick up his fourth-year option, so they went ahead and waived him after not finding a trade partner. Now, I have mentioned that maybe the Grizzlies should have left their open roster spot that they gave to Cam Spencer just to see, again, what shakes free. They didn't do that, but they did leave that two-way spot open, so now they are able to take a chance on Olivier-Maxence Prosper, who, again, I'm only going to call Omax for this entire show. I like this move because it's a very low-cost acquisition. It is taking a flyer on a guy with some athleticism, a little bit of size, a nice wingspan, and, of course, has that first-round draft pedigree. Now, the drawbacks to Omax is he has not shown very much in his 2 years in the NBA. But in the Grizzlies' circumstance of needing more size, needing more athleticism and length, and that is definitely what he provides, he has an athletic pop that is lacking throughout the Grizzlies roster, I would say. Also, he's a power forward, and the Grizzlies front court is very, very thin as they deal with the Zach Edey injury, Jaren Jackson Jr.'s injury, the unknown status or the health question marks always surrounding Brandon Clark. They'd already signed P.J. Hall to be an undersized center, probably an emergency fill-in in the front court. Now they get a guy who can also guard a little bit on the perimeter, just a springy 6'7", 6'8", 3/4, more of a 4, I would say. Now, I like to emphasize anytime they sign a new player that I am not an expert on Omax Prosper. He's not a player I had a very strong opinion about. I like the move just, again, as using your open two-way spot to bring in a guy just to see if he works out. Seems like a very low-risk decision. But I did try to bring myself up to speed on Omax. I did a little bit of a crash course, which, of course, is limited in its utility. I'm not going to be able to know very much about like his offensive and defensive awareness. I went on NBA.com. I looked at a lot of his plays that he was involved in last year. I watched every one of his field goal attempts from last year. Spoiler, kind of rough. Not ideal. with his finishing. I looked at all of his stats. Those, again, the offensive numbers are really bad. His shooting numbers are terrible. He can't really make three-pointers. More concerningly, he can't really finish in the paint very well, at least not very well yet 2 years into his NBA career. I'd say beyond the shooting numbers, it's also concerning to me that for an athletic guy with a nice wingspan, he's only blocked 10 shots in his NBA career. That is 10 blocks in 900 minutes of playing time. That's fewer blocks per minute over the past 2 seasons than, say, Zaire Williams. That's basically on par with Sam Hauser and Cam Johnson. So he's not blocking shots. He did have some okay steal numbers last season, pretty good steal percentage. I would say the most promising stat around Omax is his rebounding numbers. Very good offensive and defensive rebounding percentages based on his position. So for a power forward, cleaning the glass has him as a plus rebounder. Of course, that's, I think, sorely needed on this Grizzlies team. The most consistent good highlight I saw from him last year was offensive putbacks. And I'm seeing a lot of tip dunks. Also, sometimes beat his guy off the dribble and finish with his left hand, even though he's a right-hand shooter. That's okay, but it's, again, very sporadic. When you look at his entire body of work, which for me was just watching every one of his shots from last year, those were rare circumstances. But I did like the number of offensive putbacks he had. Another concerning number for Omax, his on-off net rating swing, apocalyptic. His 2 years on the Mavericks, just a massive negative swing whenever Omax came on the court. Those numbers are not gospel. You need context for that. Unfortunately, I don't have that context. I did not watch a lot of Omax's minutes or, every Dallas Mavericks game for the past 2 years. But despite some of those negative numbers, despite the shooting challenges that he has, he's still a 23-year-old. And you can argue, I guess the trope is you can teach shooting. You can't teach athleticism. You can't teach height. You can't teach wingspan. And he has those things. So I do think he's going to fill in nicely, hopefully be a little bit of a project for the Grizzlies, and possibly get on the court and contribute, or at least be asked to contribute, if Jaren Jackson Jr. is unavailable at the start of the year. And while Zach Edey or anybody else is injured or in foul trouble, they might turn to Omax. Now, the signing of Omax, of course, that is the third and final two-way spot. The other two going to PJ Hall and Javon Small, the West Virginia rookie taken in the second round. That means Jemai Meshack did not get a two-way spot. Chris Harrington from the Daily Memphian has been reporting that, again, the expectation for Meshack is he's going to play for the hustle and the Grizzlies will keep his draft rights. That was the anticipation when they took him on draft night at the end of the second round. Chris reported then the thought was he's going to stay with the hustle, not have a two-way spot. But then, of course, Jemai had a really strong summer league, turned some heads, and there was some thought that, hey, maybe let's give him this two-way spot. But again, credit to the Grizzlies. They did not go ahead and do that, knowing they would retain his rights. They let that spot open. Now they can take a chance on Omax Prosper turning into a positive contributor. With the 3 two-way spots filled, you add that to the 15-man main roster. That is 18 players under contract, and the Grizzlies actually went out and signed 2 more guys to training camp deals, bringing their training camp roster up to 20 by my count. They added Lawson Lovering and Tyler Burton. You may remember both of these players played for the Grizzlies Summer League team this year. If you don't remember, I forgive you. They weren't exactly that memorable. Lawson is a rookie center who played last year NCAA at Utah. He did not do much. I would call his summer league performance entirely forgettable. Tyler Burton, at least you could put together a highlight package of his summer league this year. He had a couple of big games. The first summer league game in Utah, he scored 23 points off the bench, made 5 3-pointers. Then he scored 20 points in the Grizzlies' final summer league game in Las Vegas against the Clippers. Tyler also played for the Hustle several games last year. So this is a returning Hustle player. He's a wing, a shooter. He's just going to round out, it looks like, the training camp roster. Those 20 players, by the way, does not include Jemai Meshack. I would guess Meshack actually will be the final guy they have on their training camp roster. You can have up to 21 players. So let's go ahead and guess. Outside of any official announcement yet, you have the 15 main roster guys. Of course, Edey not going to be healthy enough for training camp. Also, Jaren Jackson Jr. not going to be healthy enough for training camp. So you bring in Omax, you bring in PJ Hall in the two-way. Those guys help you have bigger squads where you can go 5-on-5. You have your guard groups, your wing groups, your center groups. Lawson, Lovering going to help out with that center group. And then probably, again, Meshack, I would guess, is going to be the 21st player on the Grizzlies training camp roster. Training camp, by the way, I think it's exactly 3 weeks from today. I'm recording this on Tuesday, September 9th. I think September 30th is when that kicks off. So we're very close to Grizzlies basketball, actual Grizzlies news. They play a preseason game in less than 1 month. That's something to get excited about. Finally, for today's brief episode, I guess we can mention that Santi Aldama and Spain got eliminated from EuroBasket. Spain, they were the defending EuroBasket champions, but they do not make it to the knockout rounds. Their final group play game was against Greece and Giannis Antetokounmpo. They did not overcome the Greek Freak, and so they are eliminated. In that final deciding game for Spain, Santi was just 2 for 11 from the field, a disappointing 1 for 7 on three-pointers, scored 12 points. So in the 5 group play games that Santi played for Spain, he averaged 14 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, and shot 39% overall, including 32% on three-pointers. So not exactly the momentum building, hey, check out what Santi is doing for the national team. We can build on this. Breakout season for Santi coming. I mean, there still could be a breakout season for Santi, but this international competition wasn't the best for Santi. He did have moments. I mean, there was one half against Bosnia where he was absolutely on fire. He had a really good game against Italy, but I'd say an underwhelming performance overall for Santi. And this Spain team, it's somewhat in transition. The golden era of guys for Spain are all gone. There are no clear up-and-coming, as far as I know, NBA contributors. You have the Hernan Gomez brothers coming off the bench and Santi starting. Those are the only real NBA pedigree guys that Spain has right now. And with that, I think we did it. Again, still in September, not a lot of Grizzlies news happening, but they did pick up Olivier-Maxence Prosper. I said I wouldn't say his full name again. Haha. I said it again. Welcome to the team, Omax. Hopefully he turns that athleticism into a positive contributing role on the Grizzlies. Anyways, thanks you guys for listening. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Do me a favor, write me an iTunes or Spotify review. Also, again, if you want to play fantasy basketball with me this season, you want to join that listener Slack channel, you want to get access to a monthly bonus episode, and of course, just support the creation of this show. Do that at patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. All right. You guys have a great Tuesday. I'll talk to you soon. Go Grizz.